I'm not sure that we have the actual like empirical evidence to say that that once you get your PhD that you don't develop lifelong collaborations, right? Like, I think it's probably really varied. I think some people hold on to some of those relationships that they formed during their PhDs, and some people don't. But I will say, like, I can certainly understand why some people are reticent to hold on to those relationships, because some of those relationships may have been really unproductive, very difficult, very like emotionally challenging, right? There's a lot of power dynamics in the academy. And I know from mentoring dozens of doctoral students that some advisors are really fantastic and some advisors are not. Some advisors give their students a lot of agency, but also direction. And some people, sort of create really toxic, dependent relationships where grad students feel constantly like beat down and never really like they're contributing. And that can feel really icky. Like, why would you want to maintain a relationship with somebody who kind of berated you, constantly? Even if maybe they had like good intentions to try to get you to think better and to be your best self, it doesn't feel good, right? To cultivate or to hold on to a relationship in which you feel really emotionally scarred by. And so, for sure, there are. Those are some of the reasons I think people wouldn't hold on to those relationships. And I think other people, I do try to encourage people, don't like be dependent on your advisor. Really try to have a team of people who are supporting you. When I was in grad school, my advisor was amazing in many ways. And there were ways in which like he wasn't really helpful to me. And so I reached out to other professors. I also reached out to a lot of professors who are emeriti or emeritus status, because they really wanted to engage with students. Like, they were kind of at the part of their career where their legacy is what they're able to pass down to next generations. And so I had coffee with several professors who were like in their 80s and their 90s. And they would read my work and they would give me feedback, and they were like such amazing sources of wisdom. And I didn't have those kinds of like, those power dynamics weren't there in a way, because they had nothing to prove and they had a lot of time for me. So yeah, my advice to people is like, if your relationship with your advisor is not working out, like, make sure you are really diversifying the people who are on your team. And hopefully those relationships will carry on as you pursue your career, regardless of whether you stay in academia or not.
So Ersin, welcome and thank you so much. And we've tried to schedule a podcast conversation, and we've made it, and we are here. So welcome.
Yes, thank you so much, Louise. I am so grateful for you really accommodating my timetable and, working around what I'm doing at the moment. And I'm really grateful for your sort of understanding on that front, and for making the time for me to, I don't know what's going to happen in this conversation really, but I'm just really looking forward to actually sitting down and chatting with you, having a nice chat actually, in a way that we probably haven't been able to do so for a while.
Exactly.
Can I say on the podcast, I was your internal examiner for your PhD thesis. So first of all, congratulations, because that was such a great viva to be involved in. And I really enjoyed reading your thesis. There was so much commonality there in terms of some of the ideas that we explore and think about. And your viva, Louise, honestly, it's one of those vivas that will stay with me because of how professionally you conducted yourself and how prepared you were. And we had such a good chat with Eve, and obviously with the chair as well. So it was just wonderful. So really well done. And I'm hoping in this chat we hear a little bit more about what you're doing next as well. So that'll be really cool.
Thank you, Ersin, for the kind words. And yes, so going backtracking for the exam, we were having the mock Viva with Stephen and Nigel, and they were saying, are you feeling nervous? To see a little bit, but at the same time, I do look forward for this, and because it's going to be a conversation and say like this. Oh, I know it's going to be an exam, and I'm going to try to treat it as a conversation, as if we were at a coffee shop or so, also like that. But obviously in a professional atmosphere, of course. But at the same time, just thinking, okay, I'm just gonna say what I know across my thesis. Obviously, it's not gonna be that much of a perfect, but whatever I say, I can see it would be evaluated. It's gonna be fantastic. It would be a really professional, casual conversation.
Yes,
so that's what I thought about.
I suppose it's weird for people to say you've got to look forward to it and enjoy it, but you must, because this is an opportunity where people have really, really engaged with your work closely.
Yes.
And you're going to have this really in-depth discussion, but you're not just discussing the thesis. There's, depending on the viva and what you are doing the PhD for, there's conversations around what next as well.
Yes.
And it was really good to have that in your viva. So it was, I really enjoyed it. It was fun.
How was your viva?
Quick. It got really quick. I mean, my memory of it was, this was back in September 2014, my viva. What? So I remember going up to Warwick University, and my mum sort of drove me up. She was like sort of hovering outside the building as I went in. And my mum is just such a wonderful support for me. And I probably will talk a bit about her in this, not trying to be fuzzy and mushy, but she's always been there for me in terms of supporting my, what I'm doing. So that was a really nice moment. And I remember the door opening and my internal examiner sort of smiled and ushered me in. And my external was David Potter, Professor David Potter. He's at Michigan University. So he was on a big screen as I walked in. So we sort of did it hybrid. And it was great. It was all the sort of expected questions, explain your thesis, the process, bit of a deep dive in the different chapters. And then there was just a really nice, relaxed discussion at the end about what to do next, and some advice about publication, that type of thing. And it felt really surreal because it didn't feel like it was happening in a weird way, because it was so pleasant. They asked me tough questions. They gave me lots of advice, and obviously there were things I had to go off and work on, but minor corrections, and it was just great. So it was a really, really nice day.
Oh, I can see it was just the traditional questions as it happened in my viva as well. And
yes.
So I wonder, which one did you find more challenging when Professor David Potter asked you a question where you found a bit of hardship to grasp your answer?
I think I can't remember the minutiae. I always struggle with trying to condense information into a really quick answer. So the summarize your thesis, that type of stuff, I always find quite challenging. I'm not going to lie. And even sort of several years down the line in this profession, it's hard for me to be succinct because I want to say everything.
Yes.
And, do it in a, joyful way and go into the detail. But that's a skill where you have to pull things back. I remember there being discussions that I know I needed to go off and think about more, that concerned how Cypriots and in the Roman period were articulating their identity, and how that compared with other landscapes in the epigraphic record, because my thesis looked at local identity formation and responses to imperial rule, predominantly looking obviously at the elites, because they're the ones that feature prominently on, epigraphic material, on inscriptions. And yes, so there were questions there about how those trends concerning Cyprus and what Cypriots are doing outside the island, how that compares with other contexts and other communities. So I remember that being something I had to really go away and think about a little bit more after the viva, and I was, thinking about what to do with things. So there was things like that.
So that was your whole research project then?
Yes,
Roman Cyprus.
My PhD was on Roman Cyprus, and a lot of people at the time were like, "Why? Why? Why are you bothering looking at this place?" And that's the point, I started reading about Roman Cyprus, and it was, still hanging on to some sort of ideas and interpretations that were quite impressionistic and quite rooted in ideas of their time that were formed in the early in the mid 20th century. And it was really clear that what was going on in Roman Cyprus was dynamic, locally driven, but there's the veneer of Roman imperial rule and the responses to that, which I think you have to dig a bit deeper in terms of the evidence and find the nuance in the interpretation. So that's what my thesis was trying to do. It was trying to address some of those very traditional interpretations that presented it as a backwater of the Roman Empire. And in many ways, but when you stop looking at the island from the perspective of Roman Italy and actually immerse yourself in the island's culture and identity of the time and look outwards from the island, you get a very different picture of what's going on because you're thinking about local connections and you're thinking about regionalism and you're thinking about that sort of connectivity with all the spaces around it. And that includes Italy in terms of that connection, but there are other deep-rooted things going on there that the priority needs to be on. So that's what the thesis was doing. It was shifting the perspective. The case was we need to shift the perspective.
So it was more looking rather at the Cypriot context within the imperial administration over there, and trying to approach it by, for what you're saying, approach it by researching the local area, but also what the other external influences that then was integrated and that shaped the identity, or just maintaining the identity of local Cypriots.
Yes.
Was it from around that?
Yes. Spot on. You get it first.
So I guess it would be something quite similar to what I did.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And all the post-colonial theory that you engaged with, and such a authority over that spoke to me in terms of how do we enter the foray? How do we unpack all this really complex narrative? And how do we, build a picture where there's more nuance? We're never going to know 100%.
Sure.
But it's about asking interesting questions and keeping the conversation open. Rather, what I felt when I was reading about Roman Cyprus before I started my PhD, and this helped me formulate the question or the questions that I wanted to explore. It felt that there was a wealth of research on the Roman period in the 20th century, but it kind of closed the conversation. It didn't open it up. And that's no fault of anybody. There's some fantastic scholars, and their legacy is really important when we look at how Roman Cyprus was engaged with and investigated. But it felt very timely because there's a lot of really exciting work happening on Hellenistic or Ptolemaic Cyprus and Roman Cyprus. And I feel it feels really good to be part of that conversation. And that conversation is still going on. And I think there's a lot of legs in it, if that's the right phrase, So there's a lot of exciting stuff on those periods.
It is so fascinating, Ersin, as you touch upon that. If being a small geographical island, almost close to the eastern coast of the Mediterranean, it has such a massive history behind it. I mean, we know there's a lot of pre-Roman presence, like you say, the Phoenicians and the local Cypriots over there at the time, and then Hellenistic, Roman, post-Roman. That's such a fascinating. But shifting the focus on the ancient world, we had a plethora of cultures that interacted exchange, even integrated. And there's always this kind of a biased perspective by looking at the sources without focusing too much on what the actual tangible evidence is out there.
Yes,
right.
Absolutely, Louise. And with Rome and Cyprus in particular, you have very few written sources that tell you, they present such a vague and impressionistic picture of the island, and they're written by people who haven't set foot there, that type of thing. It's all at arm's length, and the aims of their work is to promote other ideals. And so you have to sort of unpick all of that and pay really close attention to the archaeology and the landscape and the environment as well. So yeah, it was a great project.
Sure.
And it's really strange. I didn't expect that I would stay with it after my PhD. And that's such a naive and daft thing to think, because, I've got a very strong connection with the island because it's where my family are from. I grew up in the UK, but I've, always had this very strong pull and, feel with the island. I feel like that's, I feel my home is several places, and Cyprus is a big part of that profile.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know why I came out of the PhD thinking, that's it, I'm not going to look at Cyprus again. It was so naive of me, and really, it's become a really important aspect of the work that I'm doing, and it takes me in lots of directions that I didn't necessarily anticipate. And so I hope we can talk about some of that and relate that to sort of PhD. What happens afterwards?
Because I was really interested in knowing because you said you followed up your PhD research after passing the Viva, after doing the corrections, and after doing the salute to the vice chancellor during the ceremony, and so that's why I wonder what did you do during your post PhD journey until you got a job offer at Swansea University? Because I was really interested to know. We've chatted before, but I'd like to know a bit more how you surpassed those challenges of trying to look any job employment, any employment opportunity until you had this opportunity.
I think I'm going to have to go back a bit, if that's okay. So can I go back to before I did the PhD?
No problem at all. Because just having a conversation.
I think, I'm just trying to think here how to articulate this, because as we all know, doing a PhD is never a guarantee for a job.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that to put people off from doing it. It's just realistic. And the years after submitting my PhD, I had a couple of years that felt quite fraught. I think fraught is the word I would use, because it was this constant hustle. And academia is a hustle these days. I think it's in terms of you've got to be flexible, you've got to be creative, and you've got to work with lots of networks of people. And, I couldn't do what I do without, my friends, whether they're in academia or not, in terms of leaning on them for advice or bouncing ideas off them. And of course, my family and my big support network is, it's my husband and my mum.
Sure.
And in terms of that hustle afterwards, that constantly applying for jobs, I've applied for everything. And I felt quite prepared for that, because if we go way back, I didn't plan to do a PhD.
No.
And I didn't expect to get a job in academia afterwards. And my route to doing the PhD was it's unique to me. Everybody has a unique story. I actually did my undergrad degree in straight classics. I then had a year out where I worked. I'm not from a family where the inherited vocabulary was around academia. I come from, a family where, my grandparents, they moved to the UK in the 1950s. They did what the majority of good Cypriots do. They had fish and chip shops. Everyone in my family are, they have set up their own businesses, and they've worked in catering or hosting, hospitality, those types of industries, or they've worked with their hands. And I've just been from a family where it was the reflex was always this: you've got to work really hard, you've got to fight for your place here, you've got to take every opportunity that you can.
Yeah.
And my mum was a single mother. She raised me. It was very challenging at times for us, but the thing that she always instilled in me was your education will give you choices. That was her thing that she always wanted to instill in me. And again, like many people who find their way into academia, you have the stars align at weird points, and you sort of take opportunities when you can. And there are two moments in my education history that really stand out as sort of Willy Wonka golden ticket moments. And I know I've gone back quite a bit, but I think it's really important to mention this because this really feeds into a lot of the ethos in terms of some of the things I do and the choices I make now, but it also speaks to some of the challenges of classics as a subject area or a subject group in education today. So when I was about 11, I got a scholarship to go to a very high profile private school in the UK. I went to the Cheltenham Ladies College. It was one of those schemes where it was a government assisted bursary. So my school fees were paid for. So it was one of those types of scholarships. And the aim of it was to aid social mobility. So there was without that type of lucky break, I would never have got into a school like that. And I would never have been introduced to the classics and the ancient world in the way that has sparked the curiosity for me that made me go on to study it at undergraduate level. So from a very early age, I always had this, I've got to kind of make good on this because I was given this gift of this opportunity. And again, I sort of went through my undergrad degree. I did straight classics, wanted to do an MA. I really liked the look of the MA at Warwick. I looked at the course was the visual and material culture of ancient Rome. So it was a very intensive training in material culture studies, which set me up for what would then become the PhD. As part of that, I did 2 months at the British School of Rome. And again, nothing was a given. Everything was, I had to work alongside studying. I took a year out in between. I had a gap year. I did a year out after my degree before the MA. So there was all of this balancing of lots of different streams so that I could maintain my studies. Then I thought, okay, I've got these skills. I'm going to apply for a PhD. I think one of my module leaders at Warwick sort of floated the idea to me. So I thought, do you know what? I'm going to apply for it. And it was the AHRC block grant scheme. They had one of those opportunities, and I didn't get it. I had a year where I was just temping and working and sort of, not quite sure what I was going to do. My mum always said to me as well, so education will give you choices. That's her thing. But she also said to me, you've got to find something that you're passionate about and that you love.
Yeah.
Not very sound advice when it comes to financial planning and, thinking in that sort of sense. So I don't know, we can all be wishy-washy and say these things, but she's right. We spend so much time working. So find something you're passionate about. And the PhD was that opportunity for me to explore ancient Cyprus in a way that my undergrad didn't enable me to do because of my degree. And the MA, there wasn't room for that either. So I didn't get the AHRC block granting. So I was temping. I was doing the dullest office jobs you can imagine. I was like processing pensions and, like just not me, and this is no disrespect to anybody who does this type of work. I'm not saying
I'm still flipping. I'm still flipping chicken.
Trust me, Louise. I have every respect for everybody who finds their thing and does whatever it is that they're doing. But I just wasn't sure what I was going to do, and then I got an email saying, okay, the person who was offered the AHRC grant, they've turned it down and probably gone elsewhere type of thing. It's open to you. I was like, yeah, I'll do it. So of course I was going to take that opportunity. So I stayed at Warwick throughout the whole of my undergrad and PhD sort of experience. I wasn't going to look a gift horse in the mouth and, not go for it. Of course I was going to take it.
Yes.
So I think linking this to what came afterwards, it was really fraught. I was bouncing between teaching posts, those fixed term teaching posts. That really taught me so much. It can be very sink or swim at times, because I was commuting a lot. It was really exhausting. There's like little research time. You go from this moment where you've been able to really immerse yourself in research. You've produced this really hefty piece of work that's original, it's your own. You've immersed yourself in that whole process. You've trained in lots of different skills. You've done that whilst doing the PhD as well. You've talked about flipping chicken, like many people doing their PhDs. I got the block grant, but I was working alongside it as well because I needed to pay rent and support travel and all other things that I was doing as part of the research project. So when I came to that point where I was working in a fixed term teaching contract, it was very, very challenging. There was a lot of uncertainty. I didn't expect to get an academic job. I thought, I'm going to give it a really good go. I'll do my very best. I applied for everything. I felt prepared for that risk because, as I say, I come from a background where I was really used to seeing people doing a lot of behind the scenes extra work as part of building their own businesses. And I always knew that for me to make it, I'd have to really push myself in certain ways. So I took a lot of inspiration just from the type of behaviors that I saw from my own family and their own background in history. And that was something that I do really hold close to my heart because of how they found their space and their way and their identity living in the UK, whether it's my grandparents or like my aunt and uncles, and of course my mum as well. So I was really prepared to give it a good go. I didn't get a postdoc. I applied for lots of postdocs. Didn't get any of those. But I was also applying for permanent jobs as well. And by the time I applied for the job at Swansea and was interviewed, I think I'd had 5 interviews that particular summer. And then the Swansea interview was October 13th. I do remember that. I came down to Swansea and it was tipping it down with rain. It was like really I remember getting on the train and, the steam outside, I do remember it really vividly. But I remember there was a bit of waiting time until I was told I'd got the job at Swansea. And I just remember thinking, I can't do this anymore. This is it. If Swansea says no, I'm going to turn the skills that I have developed along the way, because your PhD, it's not just about sitting in a room and studying, is it? I'm going to turn those skills to something else. There's something else I can do, whether it's with this passion for ancient history and ancient Cyprus, or whether it's for, in another sector entirely. So I was open-minded in that respect. And when I did get the job offer, it didn't feel real. And I'm still waiting for the university to email me and say, it was a mistake. we sent the wrong email out, the imposter syndrome is real.
Yes.
Because I saw who I was up against. It's a small world, you see the same people at job interviews, and
it is.
The department and the uni took a chance on me.
I think nowadays we just need to, obviously the younger generations who are coming to universities, and they have to get this mindset, and they think this is not just secondary school anymore. This is more educational, but more of a working context.
Yes.
And doing the PhD, I mean, I know it's around 2% across the world. They can go through a PhD, and they are doing the PhD. Many of them they can't grasp this sort of juggling challenges that comes to your way. And most of us are self-funded. Some of them have funding, but they need to have what they call nowadays a side hustle to try to juggle everything at the same time. And not many of them, not saying they aren't capable, but they just need an extra push from whether their family, their closest friends, you can do this, but you need to have this emotional resilience to conclude both the degree and keep the pace and using those skills to the job that you want to apply, or to establish a business, or to doing everything that you can do. And I think many of us, we need to hear that if you don't have that mindset, then it will be even harder for you to complete a PhD, whether it is 30,000 words on a STEM PhD or an arts and humanities PhD for 100K words. You just have to have that emotional resilience. It goes beyond writing and producing research.
Yes. And there's so much to say about this. I mean, I talked a bit about my family and my family background, and how I viewed it was, and I still think this now, I think I am a business and I'm the product.
Yes.
And that has driven how I plan, how I present myself, the choices that I make in terms of what I accept and where I draw certain boundaries. And I think that is what prepared me for the tough decision that if this isn't going to work, there's other stuff that I can turn my hand to. And to be honest with you, I find it I have so much admiration for the PhD students I see coming through the system now. Obviously, we're talking about the UK system. It was a hustle when I was doing the PhD in terms of, we were teaching. Sure. I had, they were organizing events, presenting yourself at different conferences and doing all of these types of things, doing community work or outreach work as well. But today I'm seeing PhD students, like yourselves and your peers, you've come out the other end of it, but all throughout it, you were doing those things and you were publishing, you were organizing conferences. I didn't do that until after I finished my PhD. Publishing was never a pressure or a thought, And again, you started this podcast, and this is sort of seeing you throughout your PhD as well. So there's this pressure and this, it's like this tension that you've got to stand out even more. And I just don't think I could have cut it and done that. It already felt too much when I was doing what I was doing, but doesn't compare to what I see your group and peers doing. So it's the PhD is an incredible thing to do. I never forget, somebody once said to me, couldn't do your job because I'd hate to sit in an office all day. And I just thought that's the last thing that I do. I speak to so many people. I'm out the office. I'm either up and down the corridors, or I'm in a lecture room or a workshop setting or a seminar, whatever word you want to use for the teaching setting. There's so much more to doing a PhD and what comes next as well.
And I think that's a good point. Sharing those insights outside of the teaching demands. And I even go to, when I go to work, most of the people who work there at Nando's undergrads, and I'm the only PhD over there. So they ask me, so you're a doctor? Yes, I am, but not here. But they keep asking me questions, they are curious, and they see us. It gives the impression that they see PhDs as the leading example, as their role model. And so I do that personal experience where every time I get someone, not all of them, of course, but I do have a few undergrads in different areas that they ask me, how is it like to do? I'm thinking on this, but I'm so unsure about it. Could you just give me some insights? What was your experience like? And I say, well, it's a roller coaster of emotions and professional hardships that you have to grasp, and you need to be prepared yourself, as we were saying previously. I do remember this one when I was having a chat during rush hours, rush hours, and this undergrad was a student in psychology, and said, "Oh, I'm interested about doing the PhD, but I'm not so sure what does it look like." So, who else to ask than myself? And then, what would be you being a PhD student? What would you? And I asked, what is your ideal image of a PhD candidate? And that student was a bit baffled because didn't have an expected answer. And so I said, well, it's not to have a precise answer, because the PhD goes even beyond of research. You have your personal life, you have family life, you have other struggles such as working at Nando's or anywhere else you have to do, or your issues with rent, bills, regardless of living in a shared accommodation or not. You have conferences, you have network attending, some which are, you have to put in yourself that these are mandatory. You have training to do. You have all these things, and you need to grasp them at the same at once, while managing the time and leveraging your resources that you have at your hand, at the palms of your hand. And so these are multiple things that you need to juggle at the same time. So I gave that advice, that insight of the ideal image of a PhD candidate. And so then that student, I don't think that student no longer works at there anymore, but said to me, yes, I want to take a PhD, and I think he's about to process the application to go through, but I don't know when will it start, or whether it has been accepted or not. But that, I think that would be, I feel myself some sort of sharing some sense of pride to share to them. I'm a role model to them, and I need to give them insights to what they best, if they are interested in going through a PhD. But I think you'll see that generally if they are being honest with themselves.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Now, for the bonus, stand-up comedy. That's right. You can participate in stand-ups and share your research by mixing it with humor and satire. It's an alternative yet bold to engage your thesis towards lay audiences, where a strong reading of the room, your personality, and human connection are a must to boost your confidence and communication.
And thank you for sharing that, Luz, because I think No, it really speaks to an important point about preparing yourself for the PhD if you're interested. I mean, yes, I'm talking about my experience here, but it was so unique to me, and the world in which I did my university studies is very different to the world in which people are doing it now.
Yes.
And when people say to me, they ask for advice, I can talk to them about certain things, but I just say, go and speak to someone who's doing a PhD now.
Yes.
Go and speak to as many people as possible, because your insights are going to be closer to what they're going to face as opposed to what mine are, because the landscape has changed, the world has changed. And so it's really great that, people are talking to you. I love that. And from different disciplines as well. Good, speak to as many people as possible. And it's important to be part of that network if you can, where you're talking to each other across, studying levels. It's really, really good.
Yeah. And I do believe that they'll eventually will do. So maybe one or two students who I talk with who show genuine interest, and I believe they will go. If they don't want to go, that's their own decision, but at least you have this feeling that, well, I've done my role. Now it will be up to you to have your own thought of how you're going to overcome this degree.
Yes. So, I mean, I know, Louise, the nature of your podcast, and you've had lots of different guests on here, but I guess the one thing I say when people want to start having that conversation is on ethical grounds. Like, of course, gladly talk to anybody about doing a PhD and what they want to do, but ethically, I can't present a rosy picture about the job market that comes afterwards.
Yeah.
And what... Oh, goodness. I mean, one of the pieces of advice that I kept hearing when I was trying to secure a permanent job made me really sad, because people kept saying things like, oh, just hang in there, something will happen. And I just kept thinking, but not everybody can hang in there, because people have rent to pay, or people have caring responsibilities. Hanging in there is for people of a very certain profile. Hanging in there isn't for everybody, and that's not a reflection on them. That's a reflection of economics or their socioeconomic background, that type of thing. So I found that type of advice, as well-meaning as it was quite frustrating. And I think we all acknowledge, I've sort of mentioned 2 Willy Wonka golden ticket moments that put me on this path. And, in terms of my education, I always have to make a shout out about that, because that speaks to accessibility to studying the ancient world. But there's times when, luck comes into play, or kismet, So for me, it was that someone took a chance on me. Someone read, my application letter and thought, okay, Cyprus, let's interview this person. So
it's a matter of luck after all, even with the consistency, but
honestly, the Swansea job application, it was a last chance saloon. I'm not going to beat around the bush here. My mental state was not good at that point. I was like, I just cannot take, doing these endless applications and getting to interview stage and being rejected over and over again. And it really was a case of, if this does not work out, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And it worked out.
And it worked out. Just like insisting upon the same thing until it works out.
Maybe.
So now, because how long have you been a lecturer then?
Oh, goodness. I'm just trying to think. I'm very tired, Louise. It's that time of year, it's like marking's nearly done,
Yes.
I'm just trying to think back. Okay, so I started lecturing during my PhD. I think I gave my first lecture in like 2010 or 2011. No, it would have been 2011, something like that. Yeah. But went into a full-time lecturing post straight after the PhD at Warwick. So that was in 2015 to 2016. And then I did a fixed term post at Bristol University, and then I came to Swansea.
And then, so between your first lecture ever until now, how your teaching experience has changed, and if you have in between your experience, did you took your initiative to do something that made a significant impact across all the universities has been through, or more specifically in Swansea, where there was something that was impactful for the department, and then how did that affected yourself as a lecturer?
Yeah, there's a few things there. I mean, I remember my first lecture, Louise. I'd written out the whole script. And I was like, like first year students like reading it. And someone came up to me afterwards. I don't know who this person was. They must have been a fellow postgrad student from another, sitting in. And he was really blunt. He said to me, "Good lecture, but you apologized too much." I was really like deferential and nervous. And it was like the first time I was sort of teaching.
Yes.
So the thing that's changed, obviously, is confidence.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming you did some lecturing or some teaching or something. Did you do part of that as your PhD studies?
Yes. But for children.
For children, fab.
So,
okay.
Say children, so say secondary school wise.
Yeah.
Key stage 7 and 8. At a PhD level, of course. But I had, if I say teaching, I'd say my first ever teaching was at a Roman archaeological site back in Portugal, and I was a guide tour at the time. I was
love it,
giving tours to primary school students, which they were amazing, and they were like mostly attentive to guess how the Roman villa was made there in Portugal, because it was a Roman villa from the Augustan period.
Yeah.
And it was coastal, and they had literally the whole thing. It still needs a huge investment, because there's a lot of excavations that they are on hold.
Yeah.
So because it's the villa is situated between the coastal area and marshlands. So,
okay.
But anyway, we're backtracking to the touring. I taught primary school pupils, and I also had foreign tourists to visit. And so I'd say for me that was my first lecture experience, and then just for the PhD, teaching art history of portraits and portraiture for key stage 7 and 8 pupils.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
As I tend to see it, the whole point of a presentation is to make your audience see something that they didn't see before, right? And hopefully in a profound way, because if it's just an easy announcement that's not difficult to explain, why not just send a simple email or write a short memo about it? So the whole point of making a presentation or preparing a larger piece of communication is to make your audience see something that they didn't see before. And that means that means a couple of steps that are immediately derived from that. First of all, you need clarity about what is that actually? What do I need them to see? And you'd be surprised to learn how few people, not exclusively, but particularly in the science community, wouldn't be able to say that, to give a concise answer to that. So what is it that you actually want your audience to see? So, and once you've nailed that or have clarity for yourself what that is, you can ask the second question. So why don't they see it already? What do they see? What do they see that I don't? And what do they miss that I see already? And once you have that, you can kind of build a path between those 2 points. And the ultimate goal of a presentation is to lead them to what I would call the point of no return, which would probably coincide with that aha moment where you've told them everything that helps them really see what you wanted to make them see, where there is no going back for them because they've seen it in a way that they cannot unsee it anymore, and where it makes total sense because you've explained it in a way that makes sense using words that they can understand, using images and metaphors that they are familiar with.
Yes, something that is more exactly. It's more something that they are more familiar with, something that is more common as they've seen, whether on TV or on YouTube. Something, in a sense, it's more of a touristic point of view. It's kind of like when they go to an event, they're attending a speaker, and you feel like I'm a tourist here, and I want to hear what you have to say. And then something comes up, and they say something that sparks them, and I say, "Aha! That's what I want to know." And so basically,
and that is that is a great approach, and that is so starkly different to what most people do. So most people, when I ask them how they would go about preparing a presentation, they tell me similar things. They first of all, they'd start with a presentation that they've already given a couple of weeks ago, and then they fill up all the other details that have come up since, and so until they discover, whoa, that's way too much information for 25 minutes. And then they start cutting, and it's still too much. And so basically they have that problem of overwhelming their audience because there are so many things that are interesting and great and fascinating about my field, which makes sense. I mean, you're doing a PhD about it. You're researching 5 years on it. Of course, there's more interesting things to say about it than you've got time to say it.
Yes.
But that approach that you've outlined is a very different approach, where you basically turn that upside down and you don't even bother about all the things that you can say, but only ask yourself, what is that one thing that makes that tourist look over, come closer, and think to themselves, well, that is interesting. I want to know more about that.
Sure.
And so getting clarity and starting there. So what is that one thing? And often it's really literally one thing only.
That's so cool. And you've got to take the commas out of taught, because I had experience. No, you have to, because it's something else when you're in the landscape and you're in the space and you're having those conversations about the material and the space around you. And some of my early experiences teaching throughout the PhD as well involved joining. There was an organized trip by the University of Bologna. They went to Cyprus. So I joined them and I gave some lectures and sessions as part of that. And that really stayed with me. And I that's part of what I love doing now here at Swansea. So yeah, the confidence was the thing that changed most. I love that you had that exposure to kids earlier on, because they're crazy at that age as well. They're unpredictable. You know, it's a different type of register and engagement to, say, teaching in a university setting or as part of that context. So that's really cool to hear that. But yeah, in terms of when I did my fixed teaching contracts, I didn't have much choice in what I was teaching. I was like filling the gaps for people who were on leave, or filling the gaps in terms of what was needed in the syllabus. So I was often teaching things that were completely far removed from my research expertise, which was very nerve-wracking. And I had to do a lot of I had to adapt a lot to that. So it was really only at Swansea that I really had the opportunity, when I got the permanent job, to start teaching my own research. So what I've really liked, and I love this about our department, classics, ancient history and Egyptology that sits within history, heritage and classics. I've been given space and the opportunity to get Cyprus into the syllabus from undergrad level. And I just love it because there's not many places that does that. And I have really learnt from the students as well. And I've been conducting a research project on how you use critical walking and engaging with the landscape, and how you develop resources to engage students with the landscape. And my undergrad students have been part of that project. I interviewed them, they looked at material, and I'm at the stage where I'm writing that up. So that feels really collaborative. And I always get really nice responses from students when they're studying Cyprus as well. So that feels really nice. I think if I had to think about an initiative or having an impact, for 3 years, I was undergraduate program director at for our the ancient side of the department. So that was a big admin job in terms of I had to really learn how to work with colleagues to develop leadership skills. I was making or leading big decisions on the direction in which the curriculum was going. I sort of steered the department through a process called quality review. That was like a baptism by fire in the first year of me taking on this role. So that was a lot of paperwork, a lot of working with colleagues, doing my best to represent the department to an external panel and talk about what we do, how we work with students, the collaboration there. And then we've had a major overhaul of our curriculum as well. So for me, in terms of having an impact, and this speaks more about my colleagues than me because of how the dynamics are across our 3 subject areas, which is classics, Egyptology and ancient history. I really got to learn about my colleagues as part of that process of being undergraduate program director. I really got to learn about the particular quirks and the profiles of the different subject areas. Yeah, and it was a tough admin job to have, but it was a really important one in terms of my own personal development. And I feel really proud that we've worked together in a way that we've, revised the curriculum, and the new first year is going to come in September. So I'm no longer program director, but, over the summer, we'll be working through what, the granular details of delivery and that type of thing. So it feels really cool that I was a prominent role in that whole conversation there.
Wow.
So yeah,
I guess the whole department develops itself, and it's just a matter of unity and know each lecturer and how can they work together, how can be more dynamic to those who are coming every academic year.
Yes. Right. And we have to adapt and change. I mean, a lot of our focus as well, obviously we want to deliver interesting and inspiring content, but we want to really make sure that we're equipping people with, as much as we possibly can so that they can go off and do whatever it is they want to do once they have completed their degrees with us, and, be prepared for what's out there.
Yes.
Doing a classics degree, people, the number one questions we get at open days are around, well, what can I do with a classics degree? And I say classics to describe
the 3 subjects.
So, yeah, I know this is terrible, but I always say you can do anything but operate on someone. Because a humanities degree is so enriching.
Yes.
It's obviously there are obvious career paths that people follow or pursue, and it could be in archives, it can be teaching, it might be further studies, it might be in the heritage sector. There's things like that that are really relatable and that people understand that. But it can be a bit harder sometimes to try and explain, well, you can do this degree, but you can go on and go into law. Or we've had people who go on into nursing. We've had people who go and set up their own businesses. People are wonderfully equipped if they've done a humanities degree. There's a lot of, it's the critical thinking, the curiosity, communication in different registers. So all of these things are, priorities that we've been thinking about over the last few years when we've been thinking about how we design what we do in the teaching setting and how do we design assessment. It has to change. Society changes, the needs of people coming through the doors and being part of the student community, that they change constantly. We can't just be fixed. I think we need to be mindful of that for sure.
Yes, I do think that the university concept itself is just, as we were saying initially with the PhD, has gotten more dynamic, and it goes way beyond obtaining knowledge, but also other things that you can do within university. Obviously, going to, I don't know, JCs, for example, for a social gathering, or playing Catan when Stephen brings the board and to play around, right? And I feel like, okay, but maybe establishing an ancient history podcast within the department, maybe something in the horizon soon that could come up. I don't know. It must be a bit too much, but I don't know. It just would be.
Oh, Louise, as you know, with everything with academia, a lot of it is extra energy, and it's all running like anything in the arts sector. I would say a lot of stuff happens because of goodwill. And extra work that people come in, and there's so many fun, awesome things that I think that we'd probably all love to do, but there's also tensions between boundaries in terms of work-life balance. I've got so many things that I think would be really good, or sort of side projects that are shelved or in folders on my laptop, that type of thing. So
but I think one of the great things that the department provides opportunity within the budget, and given all this whole crisis of budget cuttings in the humanities department, there's still something that it is possible to do, and I've just seen that. Are they still traveling to Greece at the moment? Isn't it?
The students are in Greece. And
they are in Greece, right?
Is with them. That's not part of the syllabus, but the Student Society have put together an itinerary. And do you know what? These are really awesome skills that they've applied to this. They put together an itinerary. They worked with Maria based on recommendations. They sorted out a budget. They worked out a plan. They've recruited people to go on the trip. They're out there now. It sounds really daft, but I've been really enjoying looking at the social media stuff that they're producing as well. So they're thinking about communicating what they're doing. They're doing it in different registers. They're doing it in a fun and engaging way. There's so many skills in there, and it's not just about skills. It's just the pure enjoyment that I'm seeing when it comes to the students pulling together and doing these types of initiatives and working with each other across year groups and building that community. It's fab. I love it. I wish I was there.
I wish I was there too. And I mean, back in my undergraduate, I didn't have this opportunity except going to Erasmus. So that was the opportunity. It's coming back. Thankfully, it's coming back. And I do. Those are the type of things that if there isn't, you're just trying to create an opportunity to increase this sense of community, and obviously networking opportunities as well, without thinking I have to do networking. That thing will come naturally, I guess. And so with the travel to Greece, well, I never went beyond Germany, which I just stood. My stop was until Germany, and well, I'd say Sweden. I've been in Sweden before, okay. But that was the pit stop there from going even eastwards. But there will be the time for that. I believe in that.
Time for this.
And because creating opportunities, and then in Greece also comes with the social media. Do you run at the same time with the other lecturers of the department, or are you taking most of it? Are you managing most of it?
So social media, okay. So yeah, social media has changed so much as well, hasn't it, Louise, in terms of, using different platforms. And I mean, if I think of the pandemic, we had to really switch up what we were doing.
Yes.
Quite dramatically, and really go online. And at the time, there was a core group that kind of led this, and it was Stephen Harrison who was the main leader of this, Ian Go, Maria Pretzler, myself, and then contributions from the department. And we worked on our YouTube page, so we have a profile there. So that was something that was really, intensely worked on throughout the pandemic. We haven't really done much work with that because it's, the landscape has changed so much. Obviously, Twitter, when Twitter was a really great space to have positive exchanges. And we had a lot of instantaneous fun with Twitter, with lots of different communities engaged in the ancient world, whether it was sort of people in the wider public who were interested, whether it was schools, teachers, museums, that type of thing. But we all know what happened with Twitter, and it became a space that didn't work for us. Over the past few years, and this is more streamlined with what the university's doing, of course, has been Instagram. So Instagram has been something that we've then turned our attention to, and Maria Pretzler has been managing that for the department. And she's really curated and captured the joy of, the student community and, the research excellence and the activity of our, different members of the department. So it's become a really fun space for us to do things. And sometimes we have the daftest conversations about what we can put on this platform. Sometimes they work out, sometimes they just disappear into nothingness. But, yes, it's a really great space to capture the community. But it's a lot of work, as you know. Yes. I mean, doing a podcast, it's there's a lot of production that goes into this. So in terms of my involvement, I'm not leading it so much anymore. But whenever I have a post that's appropriate, I share it with the department, or I'll gather materials and supplement what Maria's doing or what other colleagues are doing. And social media, my goodness. I mean, it took me a while to make a decision to be on the platform and be on Instagram. I mean, you asked me a question about early experiences of teaching and what's changed. I mean, this is the agendered element of this. It just being very candid, it took me a really long time to figure out what my academic persona and identity and professional identity is. And that's very different when you're a young ECR and, a woman, and navigating that field. There's things that you can and can't do, or things that will land a certain way, and things that you will get critiqued for in a way that perhaps other colleagues might not. And that was always at the back of my mind with social media as well. Because you sort of see and hear the horror stories in terms of responses to women who have a position where they're an expert in something, or they have a passion and a curiosity, or how they present themselves. You can be very vulnerable when you're putting yourself out there. And that applies actually to so many people and communities. So it took me a while to get onto Instagram, but I made the decision that whatever I posted would be about work. It would be about my research. I would give some insight into my private life because I want to get across, naturally as possible my personality, and that feeds into. It's quite hard when you're an academic, isn't it, Louise, to sort of disentangle personal and work, because you're doing this thing because you're weird and you've geeked out over something that only you really, really care about. Yeah, it's true, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've got to kind of untangle that a little bit. Yeah. So I've got boundaries on social media that I don't cross. Like I'll mention my son, but I won't mention I won't put pictures of him up, because I think I need to be honest as well. I have a young family, and that's part of my identity as well, in terms of balancing what I'm doing with work and where I draw the line with certain things, and some of the things I can and can't do, and the decisions I make around that. It's part of, that's the whole picture. So I'm still trying to figure out what I'm doing on Instagram. There's no fixed formula, I'm trying different things. I'm going to try and speak to camera a little bit more, but I get a bit nervous about doing that.
Yeah,
so.
I do remember that time when I started only with audio, and not long ago I started with camera. Even though I do have some excellent public speaking skills as an introvert. As an introvert, I just wildly develop, and that comes from my undergrad, where lecturers encourage us to present any topic of each module, of course, about any topic in front of a public. And I think that boosted me to be more comfortable in front of a camera, or just in front of public. And I think that is also brought me to do what I'm doing, but also as a matter of trial and error. Even those so-called influencers nowadays, they started somewhere. Some of them already had means, some others didn't. But I think it's just a matter of trial and error, and see where this goes. If it goes well, we can continue. If it's not going so well, we can try to make it positive, right? And so I think as you said, with Twitter or X, you needed to have a change, and now with Instagram, has increased the followers metrics, and people students interacting a bit more, checking everything, things about curiosities, about ancient history, classics. The Egyptology, they were never expected to meet, being the lecturers being more open-minded and exposing them, not exposing, but having their online presence more often to introduce. I know not long ago, John Rogers, he was sitting right next to me writing the thesis, and now he's covering a Christian's module while he's on research leave, and don't know what's going to happen. I haven't heard of him in a while. It's just like keep sending me texts and saying, "Oh, when we go for a pint," and he hasn't replied to me ever since. But I do believe that on the flip side,
we need to both write to him, because we kept on saying we'd have a coffee, and our timetables just really didn't work out this time. I think he was very busy this term.
Yeah, and I do, but the bottom line here is that now with this booming of social media, people are more looking for online presence, online attention. I do believe, within the boundaries, obviously, I do believe that the next generations of students entering university each year, I think they have this expectation to know a bit more about their own lecturers.
Yes. I mean, this is it. This is such an important point you've made, because I always want what we're doing to be accessible as possible. And I love that we teach and work in an environment where students are comfortable to speak with us. It's very different to how I did my undergrad, and many of my peers would have gone up in terms of their studies. So I really love that aspect. And teaching, for me, and what we do in the department, is collaborative. It's not this one directional, sort of dictator style. We do things this way and this is it. It's a collaboration, isn't it? And that's the best way to share and develop knowledge and that type of thing. But you're absolutely right. I mean, a lot of my followers are students. So there has to be a barrier and a boundary there, you know?
True, that's true.
I mean, quite frankly, I love the fact that a lot of my growing up and development, it was a time where social media wasn't a thing. So we did everything and it's undocumented, you know? So it's great, you know? But now, you know, everything is online and it's a concern, isn't it? What do people do with your image, or, you know, how are things utilized, or how are people then accessing and finding out further information from you? So there's all kinds of tensions there to be mindful of. But I think for me, keeping it professional is the best way for me to manage it. And I mean, what I love, you know, Instagram seems to be the place where a lot of people are communicating. And I have personally found Instagram a really wonderful platform to connect with other scholars working on Cyprus and connect with artists and connect with the Cypriot diaspora and institutions that, you know, spearhead work on Cyprus. So for me, it's been such a fantastic professional space to meet new people. And so I get so many messages in my, you know, private inbox on Instagram, and lots of things have come out of that, you know, and I love it. You know, that wouldn't have been a thing for me had I not taken the plunge and been on there. But what I really like is, you know, a lot of people in the department have their own profiles. So obviously you spoke with Steve, and he's got his own Instagram profile, and he does brilliant stuff on there. It's not what I'm able to do, but I just love seeing how people are creative in different ways and find their niche in terms of sharing information and sharing their curiosity and passion about, you know, the field that they're working in. So I take a lot of inspiration from what people like that are doing. So anybody listening, if you haven't checked out Stephen's page, check it out. You know, he posts some really awesome stuff on there. He
does. He really does. And I think I think a few days ago he was in I think it was Singleton Park, and he was doing a video on.
I've seen it. He was I've seen it. Yeah, fab.
It was so cool, talking about giving the context of his research on Achaemenid Persian. And say, oh my god, it's so funny.
Not in an office.
Not in an office. It's not in an office. It's outside the plain sight and nice weather, because currently it's nice weather.
Louise, look, I'm hanging off a cliff in Paphos, you know?
Yes.
I'm not in my office. But it's just fun. We've got to have a bit of fun with this stuff as well. You know, I think it's really important to engage people and break down barriers. No gatekeeping. I always keep saying this. No gatekeeping.
No gatekeeping.
You know, this knowledge is for everyone.
No, there's always knowledge available for anyone, and share this, share that, and in a fun and engaging way. And I've seen with the department, and how long since I've started doing my master's back in 2019, and almost 7 years forward, and see, look at how big it was. It is right today, and with more PhDs also coming in too. I mean, what else can we get?
Louise, can I ask you a question?
Go for it, Ersin.
What prompted you, or what led you to set up this podcast series?
When I was accepted when I was enrolled into a PhD, I said to myself, and this goes back in 2020. I was still doing my master's, and I was experimenting, talking about on a podcasting setting, and doing some little experiments. And I said to myself, if I get into a PhD, I will start this podcast.
Yeah.
And so it happened. And I started to do structuring how it's going to be the episodes. Obviously, it started first with 45 minutes, but then it decreased through to 3+ minutes to shoot insightful content about the universe of PhD. How is this? How does it take this path? How it can help you to increase your networking skills, and so on. And so that's that started in 2021, the time I started my PhD, until now.
And so thank you for letting me ask you a question. And
no problem.
I suppose, I mean, you were starting that really intense studying.
Yes.
We were coming out the pandemic.
Yes.
So I suppose, like I said about the department's YouTube channel at the time, we were sort of turning more towards online platforms to connect with people as well, because doing it in real time was in the same physical space was just impossible. So that's really cool that you did that. And I mean, you've persisted with it, and I do appreciate what work goes into a podcast. I've had some experience of what goes on behind the scenes, and to maintain it is really impressive.
I really wanted to start first with PhDs, and then I've expanded the concept, broaden the concept.
Yeah.
And I was like, this time I need to invite lecturers from the department, whether it's humanities department, but also from STEM. And I think that would be nice. For me, at the start, it was a bit, not at the start of the podcast itself. Obviously, it was hard as always. The first episode was the pilot episode. I was still playing around with the software I'm still using, and now just entered into video, which is a bit more simple than ever. And for guests, I mean, I wanted to start with PhDs from Swansea, and I still do it, but now I've been a bit outside of Swansea and outside of the UK, respectively. And at first, it's better to not invite lecturers first. That would be something at a later stage. And throughout the PhD, I didn't want to say anything about the podcast to Nigel yet, until I would finish it and say to Nigel, and wanted to say to Nigel in the meeting, look, Nigel, you've probably seen on LinkedIn and Instagram what I do, and you probably know that I have a PhD Lounge podcast, and I think he knew it throughout the PhD, but we didn't want to share that insight at first throughout these 4 years of the PhD. And so I think, okay, let's invite Nigel and Stephen to jump on board, and this would be the first lectures of the whole department. And now you're having it with me, and I'm just planning to do for the next upcoming months.
Fab. I watched that episode, and it was so great to listen to their separate, perspectives of the landscape now, and how they got into studying for their PhDs and what it looked like for them, because they were talking about two very different systems. So I think, I really like that you've created this space where we can talk in ways that doesn't necessarily happen in the workplace or out of it, because we've got that time critical things that we've got to address. So I actually learned a lot about my colleagues from listening to your podcast. I speak to them a lot, and I thought I knew a lot about them anyway. So I really enjoyed listening to that episode.
Yeah, no, I think it was a great episode, and I mean, the more the merrier, and I think we get to know a bit more about the lectures. So whoever's listening to this, then Ersin is sharing insightful content.
I wouldn't go that far.
Like insightful content, but within the boundaries, of course. And
of course.
But this will be also a great opportunity for current undergrads, masters, and even PhDs. Whoever student would do something about Roman Cyprus. I don't know. Did you have someone already?
In terms of PhDs?
Yes.
No, not yet. I've acted as second supervisor for several students, but in terms of first supervision, the biggest challenge is the lack of funding.
Oh, okay.
Just going to be really honest, we struggle with that element. So I get a lot of inquiries, but yeah. So hopefully one day. But I have lots of really great conversations with people about projects and ideas, and so we'll see.
And because we were talking about social media, you've been also appearing in media broadcasts as well, beyond the classroom. I wanted to ask you, so what draws you to share your work then with a wider audience, and how talking about classics, ancient history change when you speak to the public versus teaching your own students? And
goodness. So in terms of why I want to do it, I like doing it. It pushes me to develop my skills and, think about how I can communicate the ancient world using different registers. Every time is different. There's not a fixed formula for doing this stuff well. I really enjoy these more relaxed sort of podcasty conversations. I really like doing this type of stuff. In terms of another reason why I do it, I think it's a really important responsibility that I take very seriously. I think we should be telling people in the wider community what we're doing in a university. We need to debunk some myths. We need to be accessible and approachable. And we need to, bring something that we are, holding, this knowledge. We need to take it out there. And again, no gatekeeping. I also think it's an important thing to do because I don't know everything. I don't ever assume that I am the expert and know everything. Every time I do a workshop, every time I do an object handling session, every time I do an interview or a talk, I learn so much from the audience and from those interactions that I have with people in those downtime conversations or over coffee or whatever form that takes. So I see it as a collaborative thing. Again, I don't see myself as someone locked away in an institution, sitting on all this knowledge and privilege. It's got to go out there and it's got to be for the people. And I've learned an incredible amount. I've been very humbled by some of the interactions that I've had with the wider community, whether that's school children, whether it's just public talks that I'm generally giving, whether it's very specific workshops that I have planned and delivered with other people that focuses on Cyprus and works with the diaspora. So those are my reasons. Live radio is really stressful.
More stressful than podcasting?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I appeared on London Greek radio for like a very short segment.
Okay.
And the host, she's so lovely. Vasula Christodoulou, she is just wonderful. And she was such a generous host. And I felt so nervous because at the time, I obviously, you've got to be so careful in terms of what you're saying, because once it's out, it's out. It can't be edited afterwards. Yeah. But I have asthma, and I was recovering from the most horrific, virus. So I was coughing all the time. Oh, wow. But she was fab because she kept putting in these music breaks. So I'd then like cough like mad when the music was happening, and then it'd be like 3, 2, 1, you're back in, and then like having. And it was a really high stakes, pressured. Like few minutes live on air, so I had to cough when the like interim music was happening and then talk normally. So live radio, absolutely hats off to anyone who does this live. I mean, yeah, that's just a different ball game. You've got to be so on it. It's a different level of presenting and communicating.
I think that's also reflects on live television or even in documentaries about ancient history, where they have the knowledge, but they know already they can't explain everything, and the language that they have to use has to be as if they were saying in mediatic things. So using
sound bites,
TV statements, as I think many people would assume that it is. Yeah. I do remember I was watching an analysis of this Netflix documentary about Alexander the Great, and obviously Llewellyn-Jones was
Yes.
the household name for these type of documentaries, and the analysis was spot on, and many people were doing backlash, and I believe these were people, they were bots or people craving for attention, and indeed they didn't offer any constructive criticism about the content that they were watching. It was just splashing words, endless words, and saying, one of the historians I follow said, what he's saying, what Llewellyn-Jones is saying, is a TV statement. He knows his audience. He knows what he's doing, and he's been doing this for decades. He knows what to say. Mistakes, he will make it, and I think he in his mind he says, I know this, but obviously double check me, right? But this is my work, this is my job, and I need to preserve this image as an ancient historian and sharing things about Alexander. I mean, there was a huge backlash, and I don't know if this was intentional, of saying Alexander was gay and all of that, and saying no. It's just mixing the what is currently happening with ancient world, which is a completely different thing. I mean, Stephen is the best person to ask to talk about this. So
yeah, it's really hard, because you the message of what you're getting across is going to land differently with different people. And I think, again, when you put yourself out there, you have to be prepared for lots of positive interactions, but you have to be prepared for negative as well. And I've certainly I've had some experiences where things have been negative. That's been sort of some public talks, that type of thing. That was very early on in my career. But yeah, you do have to do a lot of work to make sure you're communicating in the right way that makes people feel included. And it's a skill to present information, not just present it, but it's about having a conversation about that information, because again, it's not a one-way thing. I don't ever want to go into a space and just lecture people about something. It's, it's a multi-way conversation.
Yes.
So yes, there's lots of different ways in which one can do this. Whenever I get asked to do a talk for a public group, I've got one coming up in November. I tend to ask what it is they're interested in, rather than just going in and assuming what the topic should be. And then I sort of try and make sure that it speaks to their particular interests, but also there's room for them to have a conversation as well, rather than me just going in and delivering something one way. So yes. So
of all the radio talks you've done so far, did you have were all of them were your favorites, or if you have to choose one, which one would you choose?
Well, I've done two. So one was the live radio. I did one radio appearance for BBC Science, Radio Wales Science, which was based on this exhibit that I've got in Swansea Town Centre at Oriel Science. That again was really relaxed, because that was pre-recorded, and I had a feel of what to do for that, because obviously as part of our job teaching, we are, we're communicating constantly. Whether it's in different types of teaching sessions, so pitching the responses is part of that skill set. The one thing I loved doing, which was 10 years ago now, and if ever an opportunity came up like this again, of course I would do my best to be able to do it, because my personal circumstances have changed now. But 10 years ago, I found myself falling into this role where I was co-presenting some educational videos for GCSE students. And I did 4 of the 8 videos. It's called Romans in Focus. And we did all this filming at different locations across the UK, but we also went to Rome and we went to Ostia to do a lot of filming as well. So they're all available online. I can't watch them. It's really, a lot of me like talking and walking with this, pointing at things. But I really loved that. It was just, that exposed me to what production looks like. And again, for something to look really slick and natural, there's a lot of hidden scaffolding. So it taught me a lot about the types of things that the producers behind the scenes were doing in terms of their planning, their organization, coordinating lots of people.
Imagine.
Working with, a camera crew was really good fun. I really enjoyed that project. I have lots of happy memories of that project. So yeah, that's something I'm really proud of.
Would you share one? Just one bit of recording that you've done that you found most exciting for you?
It would be that you could watch them online if you so want to. we did these videos where we were walking around Ostia and what were the ones I did? I did Roman religion. I think I did one on living spaces. What else did I can't remember now. I did one on childhood for that. They're like 5-minute videos. They're really, really short. I need to go back to the website and remind myself. I really enjoyed
then, so that I can put it on the show notes.
I'll send you the link. I think people still use those videos. I'm quite surprised 10 years on.
Is it? Wow.
Yeah, it's nice. I didn't expect I would ever do anything like that. So I guess the thing I would say, if you get these opportunities, do it. It pushes you to try new things. I did one on the army. That's it. We were in Vindolanda. So yeah, it's all coming back to me now. Yeah, it was just fun. And I made really great friends as part of that process. And I'm still in touch with these people. So yeah, it was nice. Good.
Okay, nice. And I believe that, as we're saying initially at the talk, just getting any opportunity you have, either throughout and after the PhD, until you get your foot on you get the opportunity, both feet on that door that you open. So, I think there's a lot of things that we still need to know about throughout the PhD and getting prepared after the PhD. And so with all this experience until now and your current employment, your current experience, what advice do you have for the listeners, or even to your current students who have recently graduated or are about to graduate, and if they want to do a PhD, what advice would you share and give to them?
I guess it's don't ever stop being curious. Ask questions, question everything, do follow your passions in that respect. In terms of the sort of like the specific paths that people pursue once they've completed their undergraduate degree studies, the world is your oyster. And I think have confidence in faith in your abilities. And I think in terms of those, I say that because, in terms of the teaching at Swansea and my experience of the people who come through our programs, I have every admiration for our students because they are juggling so many things. They're pursuing their studies in this time of great uncertainty.
Yes.
And they work incredibly hard to work for their grades. And I see a bunch of, youngsters that are young adults. They come out of their degree and they are incredibly skilled. And it feels really great to be part of a department where they have that opportunity to develop skills and find their passions or their interests, not just within the department, but through other communities that they build outside, and the opportunities that they make and that they take as part of the Swansea community. So yes, there's that. And graduation is one of my favorite days of the year. I just love it so much. It's just so much fun. And yeah, it's really great to clap and see people walking across that stage in their gowns and then meeting their parents afterwards as well. Often we've spoken to them at open days, but it's great to see them at the end of the process as well. In terms of people pursuing further study, I'd just say don't do the PhD with it in your head that you're going to get a job. It's nothing's guaranteed. But just be curious, be passionate about it. You know, take every opportunity that you can, and make the most of the environment and the community that you're in. I mean, again, I said this earlier on in the talk, one of the things that I have every admiration for is the work that our PhD students in our community, the work that they do. You know, they, like I said, they're doing things that I never conceived of doing as a PhD student. And they've made it happen themselves. You know, they've pulled together, they've organized conferences. There's a framework there for some of these things to happen. But like, look at yourself, Louise, you've set up this podcast, you know, you're bringing people together, connecting them. These are amazing things that you're doing alongside your intensive geeking out studies as well. You know, so, you know, don't rest on your laurels. You know, make the most of every opportunity. And be flexible, because you don't know what's going to come afterwards. And I'm not going to say hang in there, because like I say, I get very frustrated by that type of advice, because it assumes wealth and privilege that isn't available to everybody. So it's a case of talking to people, building your network. And I'm not talking like oil slick, you know, networking. I'm talking about genuine conversations with people in the field that are either going through it at the same time as you, or people who have secured work in different sectors. Because I'm not going to lie, like, there's loads of us here and we want to see people to succeed, and we want to help them and support, and we will have the conversations, and we will brainstorm, and we will mentor. You know, we're here. That's what we're here for. And
I think that's a really great message to those who are tuning in, and to also to the current students that they have finished their exams and now just they are waiting for their marking, for their final results. So still this month is there's still marking to do, and
we still got a bit to do. It'll be finished today, I promise. It's great. I love it. Great projects come in. I'm not joking. It's brilliant.
And speaking of projects, you have your own monograph already, and what's the name of it?
Revaluing Roman Cyprus. I'm laughing because it got published in 2021. It wasn't the book I wanted it to be. And I say that because it was, I was heavily pregnant. I submitted the manuscript. I went on maternity leave. The pandemic, I had my son in the depths of the pandemic.
Wow.
So I was editing the book like late at night with a newborn baby. It was just, it's such a crazy time when I think back to it. It wasn't this beautiful, calm, you know, moment where I was sort of sitting with this work that I'd, you know, crafted for years. It was very frantic, and I've got strong memories of that time. So yes.
So any upcoming projects that you have?
Too many. I can't say no.
Maybe any upcoming book then? Yeah,
I've got a book contract with Liverpool University Press, with a very patient and understanding editor. So my second work is focusing on the cultural value of metal in Ptolemaic and Roman Cyprus. So that's pushing my skill set to different directions, and I'm addressing things that I didn't get to address in the first monograph. So that's an enjoyable project. And then, I mean, my research profile, I guess, is split in two major ways. I've got the ancient history of the island, that I focus at the culture and society and the economic sort of landscape. And then the other work that I've had space to develop whilst I've been working at Swansea has focused on sort of contemporary responses to collections of Cypriot artefacts in institutions outside the island, so predominantly focusing on the UK context. So yes, there's work on that that's developing, and I've been running workshops and engaging with the different communities over the past few years in a very stop-starty way. But there's space now for me to develop that a little bit more intensely and push that type of work a little bit further, because there's lots of really key conversations happening across the board about the role of museums, what are museums doing, connecting with the communities. And there's lots of really important conversations to be had about Cyprus, the demography there, and how people view their colonial past and what it means for them today, particularly if they live in spaces like the UK, like myself. So this is, again, it's a space where I feel quite vulnerable in many ways, because it personally affects me as well. But I take myself out of that because it's all about the people who I connect with and their responses. But that, again, it's just, such fascinating work. And I don't see it as a fixed project. I see this as a lifetime commitment, and I take that really seriously. So, yeah, it's what's the cheesy phrase? It's a marathon, not a sprint. So this work is just rumbling on.
And I think that's an excellent way to wrap up. And for the students out there, just keep doing what you can, and reach out to Ersin as well through student hours for the next academic year. Or if you're around Swansea, then just send an email and then just go pay a visit and talk about any projects that you want to work. Maybe an idea just for the department as well. That would be great. I think so. And there you are.
Yeah, the more we speak with our students, we take it very seriously. Otherwise, what is the point of what we're doing?
Yeah, that's true. Well, Ersin, thank you so much for this amazing talk. We ought to do this again, and I think the best thing would be you and Eve, the other examiner, to have a chat.
There's pressure on Eve now.
Yes, next week I'm going to Cardiff to have a drink with her, and then going to say to her, why don't you join on the podcast, and then talking about your experience and how is it like to go from Canada to the UK, and that would be amazing. But hey, where to follow the Instagram? What's the name of the Instagram account of from the department, and where to follow you?
Yeah, fab. Thank you, Louis. I really appreciate the time you've given me today.
My pleasure.
Just to have a chat, to be honest. We need to, like you say, do this more.
Yes, we have to.
Yes, the department's Instagram is at SU Ancient World. And mine is just my name. It's Ersin Hussein. So
okay,
you'll find me embedded in the department's account somewhere as well.
I think, Ersin, once again, thank you so much for having the time. And for the students and graduates tuning into this podcast talk, thank you all for tuning in. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, thank you.
And being like, okay, this is the animal, this is how you can interact with it, this is what happens, and try to do much of the same is take you with me. And it's all very much kind of quite casual, I guess, in the diary format. And it started actually not even as film or as videos or anything like that. It started as articles. I used to write articles for magazines.
Oh, okay.
It started at school, actually, when I was back in Spain. Then when I moved to boarding school in England, I wrote for the school magazine.